Good morning. Just wanted to report in on the effects of Senate Bill 168, which was the legislative fix for the legislators who had refused to file their state and federal income taxes. If you'll remember, during the session, it was announced that 19 legislators of both parties and in both bodies had refused to file for multiple years state and federal income taxes. As chairman of the Senate Ethics Committee, I was outraged. We went to work. I think it's a basic concept to expect that political leaders that tell you to pay your taxes ought to be paying theirs. It was not a pretty fight in the legislature, but we did succeed in passing legislation that now requires the Revenue Commissioner to expose the names to the House and Senate Ethics Committees of the members who have not filed or are not current on their state income taxes. The process is now over in the Senate, and I am pleased to announce that no senators on the list. There were 3 of them on the original list. There are none on there now. So the process has worked. That's the good news. It's sad that a little sunshine or a little exposure is sometimes necessary to get people to do the right thing, but it worked. So there are no senators now on the list, and that's a good thing, particularly as we are furloughing teachers and dealing with budget cuts. Having legislators paying their fair share is a reasonable request. With that, I'll take any questions. Every October, they have 30 days. By that time, that's the deadline for filing your income taxes if you have an extension. They will give legislators 30 days in communications to clear their situation up. And at the end of that process, those names will again be issued to the Senate and House Ethics Committee if there are any names on it. Well, that would be the assumption. If they had not filed and now they're not on the list, that would mean they have either negotiated a payment schedule or paid their taxes and penalties and interests that are involved, but there are none on there now, and we have confirmation of that from the Department of Revenue. The 3 original names were redacted. You'll remember that was how we got into the problem. Some self-reported. Some other names have been public due to wage garnishment and FIFAs liens on their residences, but there are no names on the list presently, which I think we should look at that as good news. The system worked. Again, it's unfortunate that the threat of exposure was necessary to accomplish the ultimate goal, but it accomplished it. Yes, I think more legislators will, particularly during that, even if they innocently forgot or somebody was handling it and forgot to file them, they'll have 30 days where they have been notified now and will be able to clear it up before their names go to committees, because I don't think any legislator wants their name out there as failing to file. It's one thing to owe back taxes and be struggling and in negotiation and having wages garnished, but these members were not even filing their forms. Yeah, it was just state income tax. Of course, that's where you show all the taxes you're paying, but whether they're paying property taxes or a local issue, and that we just couldn't get there. I mean, we barely got this bill passed this year. So if there are ways to clean it up, I'd always go down that path. In fact, I'd be willing to expand it to all local elected officials. I mean, I think taxpayers ought to know whether the elected officials that tax them are paying their taxes. I think the Ethics Committee has a job it does, and we meet and tackle issues. I don't think it required that much of legislative time or legislative staff time. I do think it probably took resources out of the Revenue Department, who are struggling to, return taxpayers' refunds to them, to get them off of that task and digging into legislators who haven't filed their taxes. That's probably where there was more of a hit. One of the changes in this bill as it moved along, which was frustrating also, when it left the Senate, when they exposed the names, it also released the power of attorney of the senators and House members, so that the Revenue Department could discuss those cases under the final version that was passed, that was changed in the House, there was no power of attorney. So we have to, in the future, we'll get the name, but then we're going to have to seek a release power of attorney for the Department of Revenue to come forward and discuss their side of the case before the two committees. That was an oversight that needs to be corrected. And if you'll also remember, this all started with a change in the rules in the Senate, which also still ought to be made, that it ought to be against the rules of the Senate to serve in that body if you have not filed your state income taxes.